That's a good one.
Guaranteed to shake things up like me, experiencing violent turbulence on my way across the Atlantic Ocean to be here for this recording.
So that was just the shockwaves through the universe of LeBron breaking the all-time scoring record.
Was.
Either way, welcome back to Motorsport 101. Welcome to episode 417 of Motorsport 101. I'm your friendly neighborhood host, Dre Harrison. I say that in two places now, and it still sounds so cool. And welcome to a brand new episode of M101, and we're talking Formula E and Diriyah, and some bonus stuff as well. And I actually find it amazing that we are literally coming to you right now from three entirely different parts of the world right now. We're in three different continents right now. That's how wild this is between the three of us on this week's shows. I'm coming to you, of course, from London in the UK. With me, live from, checking my notes here, Dubai's Autodrome. It's RJ O'Connell. Hello, RJ. How's it going?
Hello. I'm ready. I'm ready to talk about what everybody in Dubai Autodrome wants to talk about. You know, Niki Lauda was once read his last rites after a terrible accident at the Nürburgring Nordschleife, and then came back weeks later to finish out the 1976 Formula One season, finishing a runner-up at the championship before going on to win his second title the year after. It's often cited as one of the greatest comebacks in the history of sport. But why aren't we talking about Nikita Mazepin coming back from career-threatening cancel culture?
Kill him. Kill him. I want him dead. I want his house burned to the ground.
Hit it with fire. Hit it before it breeds. What are we doing here? RJ, what are you actually doing?
The serious answer is that I'm actually covering I'm helping cover the Asian Le Mans series for a multitude of platforms. It was a favor asked of me. I figured, why not get out of the house a little more? It's strange just stepping outside, looking outside the hotel room, and like, bam, racetrack right over there.
This is going to be Silverstone in like 3 months' time when people start filing out for the British Grand Prix. Now they've got an actual hotel on the site. Fun fact, it's only £10.
Can you book rooms for that?
Yeah, like apparently it's only £10 more for a view of the track. I mean, you've had to take out a mortgage payment to be able to afford the tickets in the first place, but
I say it'd be chump change for those people.
Exactly. If you're spending £1,500 for decent British Grand Prix tickets, you can afford to spend another tenner and get quality window service.
That's worth it.
Oh, yeah. Like, all we need now is to review 3 different types of food at 3 different price points, and then we've got worth it covered. But also with me, coming to you from the good old United States of America, it's Cam Buckley. Hello, Cam.
Hi, I'd just like to announce my departure from the M101 network as a result of RJ's absolute heresy. I'm not apologizing.
Double fair.
Yeah. I can't believe you just said that on air. I'm gonna take a flight. I'm gonna go lace up my black Tiffany Air Force Ones and kick him to death.
You know that they offer a nonstop flight from Logan to Dubai.
Yeah.
Really?
You know now at least.
Oh, so in other words, you're encouraging violence on our beloved RJ.
I'm gonna be like isolated outside of work for the next couple of weeks. I just need social interaction outside of my work group, you know.
Can recording a couple of podcasts help?
I think it will, because
good idea.
We've got to have a dialogue. Not about Nikita Mazepin. We've got to have a dialogue about Formula E championship frontrunner Pascal Wehrlein after the Diriyah E pre-double header. But we've also got to have a little bit of a dialogue about things that are going on in Formula One.
Oh, yeah, 100%. This was originally going to be a podcast just talking about the Diriyah double, as I like to call it, the 2 races we had in Saudi Arabia this past weekend. I also wanted to talk about Mohammed Ben Sulayem, the president of the FIA, and we've not talked Formula One on this show for a little while now because they're in, the longest off season they've had in a good few years.
Right now we're just in the middle of car reveal season, which is to say hour and a half long last year's car livery reveal season.
Everybody says they miss the days when Formula One car launches were big, bullshit, bloated up events with a whole bunch of fucking nothing going on to fill in the time. And well, you got it. And as it turns out, people don't miss it that much.
And Ford is back. Ford is back in a tie-up with Red Bull Racing. I mean, it's funny. I mean, we were talking about overblown, fluffy presentations, and Red Bull was the undisputed king of that last week with a 90-minute long presentation, including a 40-minute countdown sequence, and the Ford news already leaking the night before, thanks to the Italian media and Ford not sending them an embargo with the story.
Italian media got one right for a change. What a time to be alive.
Yeah, they got it on the nose, and Ford forgot to put an embargo in the press release. Whoops. Way to go, them. So, of course, the Italians took the ball and ran with it, as they have every right to do, and there's no embargo on the news story. And yeah, everybody had revealed the exact same car as last year with no real surprises. And yeah, like the car looked exactly the same. But hey, Ford's a thing now. They're going to be helping out with Red Bull's powertrain and battery and ERS side of the hybrid power unit for 2026. And they'll be supplying AlphaTauri as well. So
my Ford is best Ford because it's an energy drink.
Yeah. Brought to you by EcoBoost. But
it's a smoothie, Cam.
Well, if we combine them together, what do we get?
We get time being a flat circle.
Right, welcome back to Jaguar Racing, huh?
Welcome back, Stewart Grand Prix. Let's go.
As you do. But we wanted to talk predominantly about their FIA president, Mohammed Ben Sulayem, at the moment, because, well, it's not been a great January for the man, if we're being honest. I'd heard about this. I'd heard bits and pieces about this, but I don't know like the full gritty details. But it seems like he's had a rough week. I would argue. Yeah, I'd argue like it's in a situation where he was arguably being positioned. He didn't help his case, but it's clear that like he wasn't in a winnable position in either state. No. For those who haven't kept up with these multiple stories over the month of January, I'll fill you in real quick on what exactly happened. Earlier on in January, there was a Bloomberg report that rumored that the Saudi Arabia investment group was potentially tabling a $20 billion offer to buy Formula One. That's obviously from Formula One management, the commercial rights holders of the sport. Mohammed Ben Sulayem took to Twitter as president of the FIA and was critical of the report, saying that it was an inflated price tag and that anyone that's coming in to buy the sport should have a long-term sustainable plan, and that circulating deals around an inflated price tag was a bad idea, potentially. Formula One didn't like that and basically released a statement with the lawyers involved to all the teams saying, shut the fuck up, Mohammed Ben Sulayem, you're potentially hurting our company's value when you make statements like this. So that didn't go down well with Mohammed Ben Sulayem. About a week later, somebody used the Wayback Machine on his old website and found comments from, I think it was 2001 on his old website. To K-pop stan defamation tactics here. Oh yeah, to get this across. Yeah, the Wayback Machine. His old website. His old website blogs from 22 years ago, and in it there was a sexist comment in there that said, "I don't like women that think they are smarter than men." That didn't go over well. No, very normal thing to say. Jesus Christ. Apparently the teams did not like that one bit, and some were calling for the man's head in terms of his FIA presidency, on top of the statements potentially hurting the sport's value. And now in the last 24 hours, it's been announced. Yeah, it's even official. Yeah, so I wasn't sure who's published it. Adrian Wojnarowski reporting that Mohammed Ben Sulayem has stepped down.
Yes. Only the third biggest Woj bomb of the week.
Yeah, I know, right? But essentially, Mohammed Ben Sulayem is stepping back from day-to-day running of Formula One as a governing body. Remind me who's the next point of contact again, because I know they're going to have the president of the Single Seat Commission now be the go-to contact.
Nicholas Tombazis.
Nicholas Tombazis. He basically they created a role for this exact purpose.
Yeah,
and
now
he's in the one. Now his email to the teams, MBS's email to the teams, is more or less passing on the information to contact Nicholas instead of himself.
Right. So this is where we are. This is where we're at right now. Now, safe to say, it's not been a great month for Mohammed. It's an interesting story in that it's pretty clear there is beef between the FIA and Formula One management. I know for a fact that there has been a lot of under the table backlash against him pushing for an 11th team in Formula One as well, because he's not even mentioned that they are opening up the formal process to invite teams to take part in 2025 to 27. And we all know who's top of that list to potentially enter the sport in as soon as 2 years' time, probably not 25. 26 is obviously a lot more likely with the new regulations regarding the sport.
Yep.
But what have you made of all of this then? Especially, I mean, I'll go to Cam first on this one because he keeps me keeping a bit more track of it than RJ has. But this is wild.
I don't really think I think that the media is kind of running around making a much bigger deal of it than it actually is.
To a degree, I think
this was part of his manifesto basically from day one in getting elected to the position that he's in the FIA. The whole point was for him to be hands off of F1 so he could focus on being president of the FIA. Only the guy in charge of single seaters last year quit his job. That's why now Nicholas is in that role now, so that he can be that guy who is the direct liaison between Formula One and the FIA. And regardless of how much FOM and Liberty and the teams hate how he's been approaching, especially things with Andretti, where teams are never going to vote up to give up their piece of the pie, regardless of the overarching effects on the sport, there's not a whole lot they can actually do about him.
Right.
What this is being made to look like is that FOM and their backlash is bullying him out of being hands-on with the FIA and F1. That is not the case.
No.
This was always on the table. It just happens to come at a particular time where it looks like that because Liberty more or less has been throwing out votes of no confidence publicly against him since he's been trying to strong-arm them into allowing more teams into the sport.
Wasn't there a rumor that like they were just straight up willing him to not just like move him into this hands-off role, but just straight up replace him as head of the FIA?
Oh yeah, they want him out. They want him gone.
They want him gone.
There are at least half the grid actively wants him gone, and that's why they've been putting out all the statements into the media to try and they're kind of in a battle of the public court of opinion where they're just leaking out statements to try and fuck over one another.
It's gotten ugly, and yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with Cam. This is ugly stuff. And for added context, for those who may not know the internal political workings on here, it's important to point out Mohammed bin Sulayem winning the FIA presidency was an upset. It was considered an upset. He's not an FOM guy. He was not groomed into this sort of election process like the FOM normally does, where one of their guys ends up becoming president. Mohammed bin Sulayem winning the presidency was a bit of an upset, and his background is rallying, not Formula One. So naturally, the FIA has, and naturally, Mohammed bin Sulayem's not going to be Formula One's most knowledgeable area of expertise. And it's easy to forget that the FIA runs a lot more than Formula One. It's a governing body for multiple championships like the WEC, Formula E, the Road to F1, the karting series. I
think that's the most important component here, Dre, what you mentioned, is that he is not beholden to Formula One more than he is any other series that the FIA governs. And the FIA governs a hell of a lot of motorsport.
Correct.
And Formula One And I think we'll talk about it quite a bit more as we get into Formula One season, kind of how that entry process for new teams looks relative to the value of the sport. Formula One running around sowing chaos as its own entity, gatekeeping other entrants out, and using what we have on fairly good authority is artificially inflated values to then pump up their own values. That is detrimental to all of motorsport.
Correct.
And MBS is beholden to all of motorsport. It is his job to make sure not just Formula One and FOM, but all of the series that the FIA govern are healthy and are successful and have room to grow.
Correct. This is the what I was getting at here. I think a lot of people have already turned against Mohammed bin Sulayem in the court of public opinion regarding his FIA presidency. And, I don't necessarily disagree with all of those statements because it is complicated. But here's what I will say in order. First and foremost, in regards to the sport's value, he was absolutely right to make the comments that he made. 100%. Yep. Liberty Media only bought this sport out 6 years ago, and it was for $4.7 billion. Like, are you telling me this sport is now worth 4 to 5 times what it was in just 6 years?
And that the Saudi government is going to bid on it. Like, what is this, WWE?
Like, I don't buy that for a second, and I don't know where they're getting the idea that a company that turns over $2 billion a year and made $750 million in profit is worth 25 times that yearly profit. I think that's crazy talk. First and foremost, I do not think it's worth. And I've watched enough episodes of Shark Tank to know that that's a crazy valuation.
Oh, we just got an evaluation from Forbes, and it's not worth $20 billion. No. It's worth around 17, and that is based around potential. That's not based on current hard value.
Yeah, and I think there is something to the potential argument, but at the same time, I also don't think it's suddenly worth 4 times what it was that quickly. And yes, like, the potential ramifications of a sport that is suddenly worth, in someone's eyes, 5 times more than what it was 6 years ago are huge. Teams are going to want a bigger slice of the pie because their stake is now worth even more than what they thought it was going to be worth. The value goes on to things like track promoters. Our government's going to be prepared to flip the bill if the sport raises sanctioning fees, for example. There's a bunch of political and financial ramifications that come if the sport suddenly has a $20 billion price tag on it instead of a 4.7, 4.8. Let's even round up. Let's call it 5 billion value instead. Yeah. So I think Mohammed bin Sulayem was absolutely right to make the comments that he made, but in the court of public opinion against the teams, the teams were never going to root for one of their own. Or not root for someone that isn't one of their own, I should say.
Yeah, they're never the turkey's never going to vote to go in the oven.
No.
And in this case, you've got these teams that already have slices of the pie. Mm-hmm. They're under a current Concord agreement regarding Andretti and any other new entity that wants to get in that doesn't want to buy an existing team, like Audi officially has bought into Sauber as of about a week ago.
Yep, minority stake.
You're on a current Concord agreement. The entry fee is $200 million, the anti-dilution fee.
Yeah.
Well, the teams want that to be a minimum of 2 to 3 times higher. Really more like far more than that. These were hurdles that were never meant to be cleared, and Michael Andretti and his team have repeatedly decided, hey, any obstacle you put in the way, anywhere you want to move the goalposts, we will move to in order to get into this. I will hop on one foot.
It will be no factor.
Yeah, exactly. For all the RCR fans out there.
Yeah. And
the $200 million anti-dilution fee was never meant to be cleared. Yeah. Andretti would. So then they said, oh, well, he needs an OEM to bring additional value. So he got General Motors, one of the biggest OEMs on planet Earth. Well, by opening that the entry process into new potential teams, and we all know Andretti is the biggest of that set right now, what you get is you then force FOM, who do have the final say, to be beholden to that Concord agreement. Because if they wait, and if they continue to peddle the values currently bandied about, we can go into the next Concord agreement. They're going to say, we can charge you whatever we want.
Are we sure it's not Calvin Lowe and Panthera Asia that are on top of that list?
That's a funny joke.
I don't think so somehow. But yeah, what Cam's saying is 100% spot on. As you know, but of course, a lot of people were very quick to turn on him, on Mohammed Ben Sulayem for his comments and basically say, hey, know your effing role, etc. And, you know, as governing body guy, which is just crazy.
Which is
Travis Kelce.
Which is really not, the way to do it either. I mean, but he lost probably a big section of the people who would support him by banning all political statement from drivers, which has since been backtracked on because it's just fucking unnecessary.
Yeah.
I never imagined that the most outspoken party in this regard would be Red Bull Racing, given the conjecture that is made from people who don't like Red Bull about their team and the way and the things that they stand for.
Right. And and of course, it was the Times that were the newspaper, the right-wing newspaper in the UK that used the Wayback Machine on Mohammed Ben Sulayem's old website. And they were like, ha, gotcha. Now, let me just clarify something here as well. None of us here endorse Mohammed Ben Sulayem's comments about women from 2001. They are sexist, misogynistic, bullshitty comments that have no place in any modern-day society. Now, I wouldn't normally be reactionary like this, but I'm going to use the word however here. And I say however, and I'm going to be very careful in how I word this, but here's what I would say in response to that. Number one, these comments were 22 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how long of a quote, if there should be an expiration date on a take. However, I would like to think with Mohammed Ben Sulayem's actions since becoming FIA president, he has learned to grow as a human being since then. Whether you still want to hold his previous comments against him is ultimately down to you as a person. But I would like to think, and this is not me exonerating him, but since he's become FIA president, he's become the first president to hire a woman as CEO, and he's promoted multiple women into positions of power within the FIA. I would like to think his actions speak more now than his comments of 22 years ago. Again, it depends on how you look at it individually. I can't tell you how you should feel about these comments, but I would like to think, to give him the full context of what's happened since those websites' comments, I feel like it's only fair I do him at least partial justice and mention that. And like I said, one more time, we do not condone those comments from the past. 100%. They are sexist bullshit. But I feel like it's important to give him the full context. For a lot of the team bosses, that was a death sentence. Basically, it was like that on top of the F1 comments.
Oh, that's free. It's free real estate for them. They already don't like the guy. He's already trying to take a slice of their pie when it comes to the money payout from Formula One. That's all the ammunition they needed.
Yeah,
Ben Sulayem is a very blunt dude in general. Like, like he gave an interview with Dirtfish ahead of the Monte Carlo rally where he basically said, "I've been dragged. I'm being very straight and honest. I've been sucked into Formula One. Like, it's something that he just doesn't want to deal with."
Yeah,
and I think to that effect as well, in public perception being 9/10 of the law, a lot of people are looking at the FIA as the cops here. And they're not incorrect.
No.
The problem is that the teams are also the cops. They're just other cops.
Yeah, it's political strong arming. It's a dick measuring contest from both sides of the aisle. It's a bit like modern day British politics, to be honest with you. I was like, I'm tuning into a House of Parliament session right now, only with race cars. Order, etc. And that's basically how I feel about all of this. Whether you like, I suspect your view on this news about Mohammed Ben Sulayem today strictly depends on which set of cops do you like more. Because if you're more prepared to give the FIA the benefit of the doubt, you can easily say, well, this structure's been in the process this whole time. Formula One, apparently behind the scenes, have said that this is all reactionary based on what's happened in the last 3 weeks. Who do you want to believe? That's ultimately down to you, listener. But It's easy for us to say that the media is making a bigger story of this than it is when we've dedicated 20 minutes to it on the show. So, who's the idiots here, really? But,
we've just made a 20-minute long big deal to tell you how little of a deal this actually is. You're all welcome.
We worked ourselves into a shoot. Brother.
Oh yeah, but with that in mind, should we tell the people where you can find us first before we get into the meat and potatoes of Formula E? I think that'd be a good idea. Places you can find us are on youtube.com/motorsport101, facebook.com/motorsport101. We're on Twitter at motorsport_101, and our personal handles are at Dre_WTF1, at RJ O'Connell, and at cbuckley917. If you really like us, you can back us financially on Patreon, patreon.com/motorsport101. $5 gets you early access to all of these episodes before they go live to the public. 10 for the supporters club of our Discord server, where you can listen to them live as they're being recorded and contribute in the chat as well. If you're that way inclined, you can find all of those details and more on our website, motorsport101.com. Right, we've put this off no longer. Cam, start the helicopter. Let's talk about Formula E in Diriyah.
We need to have a dialogue about Pascal Wehrlein.
We need to have a dialogue about Porsche's Gen 3 powertrain.
Yeah, safe to say. Yeah, safe to say this was Pascal Wehrlein's weekend. Porsche kept up their 100% winning record on the season with a double victory in Diriyah. Pascal also made history in the first race. His battle with Jake Dennis for second was the first time the top two in a Formula E race was earned from outside of the top 8, given they started 9th and 11th on the grid, respectively. Neither of them made the duels.
Race pace.
Yeah. Neither of them made the duels in their respective qualifying sessions, and they still finished first and second. I think I'm right in saying Porsche's now been 1 and 2 in all 3 races so far this season.
And it's been these two drivers.
It's been these two. It's been Wehrlein and Dennis all 3 times over. As mentioned, both men finished 1-2 in both of these races as well, with Sam Bird in race 1 and Rene Rast in race 2 filling out the podiums on both occasions. Now, I wonder which one of the 3 of us I'm going to point this towards first. Anyone want to hazard a guess? Cameron, the fuck is going on at Porsche?
I'll tell you what happened this weekend. Pascal Wehrlein passed some fucking cars.
We kept saying it, and he listened, and it's coming good at just the right time.
I'd like to announce that we are all getting a mulligan on our championship picks this year because DS Powertrains has catfished all of us.
Oh, Lord. More on them in a bit. But Jesus.
Yeah, we got catfished in our preseason testing coverage.
Massively. Holy shit.
I mean, Porsche's race pace has just been destructive in all 3 races. I mean, the way Pascal won these 2 races this weekend was just driving up behind someone, forcing them to destroy their battery percentage, and then just driving around them and driving off into the distance.
Race 2, I think, was the greater example of this, in my opinion, where Pascal Wehrlein didn't have to do as much work in race 2 because I think he started 5th as opposed to 9th.
Yeah.
And he just sat there for the first half of the race and just basically let both McLarens, because it was Rast and Hughes leading the way in the first half of that race with Mitch Evans in 3rd. And he just sat there, I'm just going to save 3 or 4% more usable battery power than all of you guys in front. I'm going to let you guys burn your batteries out trying to break away from me, and I'm just going to pick you all off one by one. And that's exactly what Wehrlein did. It was effortless from Pascal.
Smarter, not harder.
Yeah, and really the biggest thing around this is that Porsche's minimum speed performance, their low speed grip and traction is so good, they just don't need to burn as much energy to get the lap time out of the car.
It's incredible. It's like they're driving like a completely different stand of car compared to everybody else. And we've been scratching around. I mean, that's a potential reason. People were scratching around at the time last week thinking, how the hell have Porsche gotten this so right compared to everybody else? Because as we alluded to, it's not just Pascal. Jake Dennis has been fantastic again so far this season. He's now up to 6 races in a row where he's finished 4th or better going through last season.
first race, we had all 4 cars in the top 6. First race this weekend, or first weekend, all 4 cars were in the top 6. And then the first race here, everyone had good pace. Unfortunately, DaCosta got game ended on turn 1 thanks to Mitch Evans. And I don't want to derail this podcast because if I start about him, I'm not going to stop. Just game-ending Rene Rast into turn 1 and stacking up half the field behind them. Good job, bud. Keep on that energy.
They would, but yeah. It was coming out of his car too quickly.
Yeah, I mean, there were thoughts that potentially the cold weather has been helping them, but as Sam Smith was talking about on the race, it's just their low speed is so good that they don't need to burn the same amount of energy to make the same lap time. I mean, they consistently through both races, Pascal and Dennis were 2-3% clear of everyone around them.
Yeah, the only real other outlier was Sam Bird in race 2, where he was like, "Oh, I'm just 4% higher than most of the field." Like, huh?
He learned from the first race being hunted down by Pascal. He just had better energy management in the second race.
Race 1 looked like it was going to be Sam Bird's day to get back in the W column, and then Pascal Wehrlein just took his lunch money in the final 10 laps of the race.
Just dangled him upside down. I mean, it's not hard given how short the man is, poor guy. But just dangled him upside down, and his wallet just fell out. It was just rough. And then after the safety car in race 2 went wide on the restart when he probably would have had an easy podium otherwise. That ended up going to Rene Rast instead. And we'll talk a little bit about the rest of the field in just a moment. But
Rene Rast is still Rene Fast.
Yeah, man could still drive. Great weekend from him. More than it was unlucky in race 1 that he was on the receiving end of a, shall we say, hearty shove from Mitch Evans.
That what he calls it?
I was trying to be nice. I suspect I was being a bit too generous there, but we'll call it a hearty shove. Was the victim of that, but again came back well. Got on the podium in race 2, and like their first podiums as a team in Formula E for the McLaren boys, and Jake Dennis got his first pole position for the team as well in Jules race 1. So it's race 2, I should say. He was on pole for race 2. His qualifying so far this season has gone 3rd, 2nd, 1st for Dennis. So Hughes. He's going up in the right direction. I'm getting my Jakes mixed up as well.
Too many Jakes.
Too many Jakes, it's too many Jakes around here.
Well, but it's different. We have a Jake surplus now. Remember when we had an Oliver surplus?
We did. We were,
and now one of them's working television for this series, and the other is like managing one of the other teams behind the scenes.
Yeah, Oliver Askew, the TV pundit. That's something I never thought I would say off the back of a couple of years ago, but here we are. But yeah, just sensational performances from Wehrlein and Dennis. It's already looking ominous for the state of the season, given if you take Dennis away, the next nearest man in the championship is 31 points back. We've only done 3 races, and Sebastian Buemi is best of the rest in 3rd.
Remarkably consistent. Cam, you sure there was some hesitation about whether or not Porsche wants to stick around. You want to rethink that?
Yeah, I do.
We'll get back to you after Hyderabad, the first.
Well, I'll get back to you after we see how the 963 does in its next race, because more on that in the next episode.
Oh yeah, more on that coming up real soon.
It could be a Hydra good weekend.
Yeah.
For our Porsche.
You know who didn't have a good weekend? You know who hasn't had a good year so far? Anyone with DS powertrains.
Stellantis is so bad.
They stink.
Between the DS Penskes and the Maserati MSG team, 9 points between them through the first 3 races.
9 points.
7th and 9th in the constructors, respectively.
They've been devoid of pace and energy management.
Yeah, again, we said it in our season preview. We beat our chests very loudly about this with Sasha, but we were adamant that DS was going to take at least one of these titles. We thought the DS reputation from their T-Cheetah days would carry them forward. The testing rumors were strong that Robin Freins was adamant that the DS team had the best powertrains going. That was murmurs in the paddock.
That's right.
Got catfished.
And you know what we did? We decided, all right, Jay Penske, it's now or never. Now, it's only 3 races into a 16-week season. I'm not saying that we're overreacting to just a rough 3-race patch, but what the fuck?
What
and
the hell?
They've shown nothing.
It's not even like they've got regen problems. I don't think they look particularly out of place in that department. There's just no speed. Like, they are struggling across the board. Like, the race pace isn't really there. I mean, Vern was okay in Mexico, but then fell at the end. I mean, again, 7th in race 1 in Diriyah was about as good as it got. I mean, both Maseratis crashed in qualifying. Like, Mortara didn't finish the first 2 races. Max
Gunther didn't start the first one.
Yeah, because he damaged his car after a qualifying wreck. He broke the tub. Apparently, he had to stay up till 3 in the morning in the garage to try and fix it for the second race on Saturday. And Roster had to get the burgers in for the team, which my first thought was, where the hell are they getting burgers in Diriyah from?
Shake Shack.
Of course. Yeah, no in and outs in the area, of course. But they had to get the burgers in to appease the crew that was working through the night to fix Gunther's car. But he still has not scored a point this season. Van Dorn has got 1 point to his name after finishing 10th in Mexico. Vern has 6 from his... 2/3 of all the points for anybody on the DS powertrain was Jev finishing 7th in the first race in Diriyah, and he didn't look like he was particularly going to win. Rough times in the DS camp.
I would say Stoffel Van Dorn, defending champion, currently is on the same number of points as Dan Ticktum for Neo.
Which is 1. Yeah, Maserati MSG Racing after 3 races have cleared the subterranean bar of being just better than a team that was dead last year and a team that can't stay out of the grave despite all their best efforts to be bottom feeders.
Yeah, the Apt team are brand new on the scene, and we've expected them to be bad, and they have been. And Neo, who have got a very fast car over a single lap, they are good enough to, I reckon, at least make a final of a duel. All right, they are good enough to do that, but their regen in terms of their race trim is piss poor.
Stinks.
I was going to say, shout out to Nico Muller, unironically getting beaten by Kelvin van der Linde, who's standing in.
Yeah, Kelvin van der Linde stood in last minute, brought the car home. Didn't do anything particularly out of place, and that's fine. Because honestly, what Apt Cupra need right now is runtime more than anything else. Because they've not had a lot of time to test their car out. So just bringing the car home was the bare minimum you'd expect from Van der Linde, and he's been fine in that regard. And yeah, we can't say much fairer than that from Kelvin on this occasion. And who knows, he might have to stand in a bit more over the next few rounds because we underestimated how bad Robin Frinn's injury was in Mexico. Let me tell you. I had a chat with friend of the show and one of the best Formula E heads in the business, Hazel Southwell, about this. I did notice on social media that they were making quite a large amount of fuss for what seemed like a broken wrist until I was told apparently the bone was sticking out of his hand.
Nice.
Apparently, Robin was in agony. He had to be rushed straight to the hospital to obviously get that fixed ASAP. I was told, in no uncertain terms, could be a season ender.
Oh, that sucks. I don't even know how you... It didn't even look that bad at first glance.
It didn't, and yet, apparently, it was like emergency surgery level bad. So get well soon, Robin. That is horrible news. to hear. Because Robin is one of the staple dudes in Formula E, one of the fastest dudes in the series, and he knew
he's one of the best drivers that hasn't won a championship yet.
Oh yeah,
100% agreed. And one of the fastest dudes in the series. He's already left a good in Virgin Racing team, one that clearly has got something, because Buemi's been pretty damn good so far this season in his new home. So clearly the car is good, but he walked away from them at the end of last season to take this punt on bringing Cooper back up the field, and it's this season might be a write-off for Robin, which is horrible news to hear off the back of what could have been quite an exciting move. So yeah, get well soon, Robin, from all of us here. That's a brutal one, but a few more observations on the state of the field so far. I mean, McLaren, like,
very fast. It's the fastest cars in qualifying, I would say.
We can give them all the golden cocks we want, but at the end of the day, Zach Brown just keeps getting away with it.
He does. It's a fast car, certainly over a single lap. I don't think their regen is quite there with the big hitters just yet. But it's not a million miles away, is what I would say. And it looks like they are good enough to challenge for podiums consistently. And that's a pretty good start for a brand new team. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Brand new, he says.
Well, it's okay. It's not, I mean, they inherited the reigning champions, but it's still,
I say they're kicking the crap out of Nissan. Nissan have been nowhere so far.
Yeah, Nissan, I remember, they're the customers of the Nissan Formula E team. Nissan's been dog shit so far this season.
Sasha is trying his best. He's carrying the team on his tiny little legs and arms.
Sasha is trying. God bless.
He needs back surgery already, and he's like 23 years old.
God bless him. I mean, he brought home the team's first points in race 2 in Diriyah by finishing 8th. 4 very precious points for the Nissan team to get him through this past weekend. But it's not been great in the Nissan Formula E team. They're down in 8th in the constructor standings right now, compared to their customers, the McLaren team, that have 53 points and are running third, comfortably in third. It's not a good look for the Nissan boys in general. I'd say Envision looked pretty good. Buemi's been pretty consistent so far. I don't think
I think it was proven that Sebastian Buemi just needed a change of scenery, because whatever spark he and Renault Edams had back in the day was clearly lost as the years dragged on when it became Nissan Edams and then just Nissan.
Yeah, like he's left. He's gone to another team. He's been solid. And Nissan are just nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, Buemi's at a pole position already. He was on pole in race 1. Couldn't quite hold on to the lead, but still finished 4th, their best result of the season so far. He's not dropped out of the top 6 all season, which is a good start for Buemi. Cassidy's not a million miles behind. Been a bit unlucky with the way races have played out for him, but we know Cassidy's going to get a win.
Nick Cassidy will get a win under less bullshit circumstances than his first one came.
Oh, I agree. It should have really been in New York last year, but we all know what happened there. But, like Envision, I think, is right up there. Certainly. Lucas is such an outlier.
Jay Penske, you are running out of time to be invited to the family cookout again.
Definitely. Jaguar are not bad. Like they've clearly got some
pace.
They've got pace. They Sam Bird proved they can save some battery life. That's certainly been proven. They can do that.
So it kind of goes like their regen can be as good as the Porsches. The McLaren can be as fast as the Porsches. Nobody has both. Yeah,
it's one or the other at the moment. And Bird had to give up a chunk of his race pace to be able to save that much battery, and it showed down the stretch. And then, sadly, he made a mistake when he had a golden chance to challenge for the win post safety car. So that was unfortunate, but it feels like Jaguar are already going to be bridesmaids again in Formula E. It's like, yeah, we're good, but we can't quite win a title. It's a problem. Mahindra have been completely carried by Lucas de Grassi's Mexico City race, because I think they look dog shit otherwise.
Horrible in Diriyah.
Yeah, like they were horrible. They were absolutely nowhere all weekend long in Diriyah. I don't know what happened between there and Mexico City. To be fair, we all know Lucas got a little bit lucky in Mexico with the way the duels played out, but even so, big disparity there between Mexico City and Diriyah. We've talked about the Penske guys struggling. Nissan stink. Neo were fast over a lap, and Cooper are struggling. I mean, it's a weird one, and I mean, I think we'll know more about the state of the field after this weekend in Hyderabad. That is a much more, what I would say, conventional Formula E race as we go, because Formula E races into the summer. It's normally a lot warmer. They're expecting it to be around 30 degrees Celsius in Hyderabad this weekend.
Much more representative as far as temperatures.
Yeah, it was only 6 in Mexico, and it was in the minuses by the time the races were over in Diriyah. So this is going to be a much better representation of what Formula E is at the moment. So if we want a good idea of the landscape of the field and the lay of the land, we'll probably know a lot more after this weekend. If Porsche are up the front there too, cancel Christmas. This could be a very short season. It could very easily become a 2-man fight for the title between Dennis and Wehrlein, which would be a problem, to say the least.
Yeah, you might think so.
Well, a problem for maybe the neutral viewer, but for Cam, he's loving life right about now.
There is no substitute, to borrow an old Porsche marketing slogan.
Oh, yeah. We'll have to wait and see, and we'll see how Hyderabad gets on this coming Saturday for their first foray into India. Hopefully it works out. It's a great market for them to potentially crack. So I do hope it's a good weekend on that one. We've already told you where to find us, and that was half through the show, so I'm not going to bother running all that social media down just 20 minutes again after the last time. But just wanted to say thank you very much for listening on with us. Stick around for the next episode. It will be on some 24-hour race in Florida. It was a hot one, to say the least. Until then, I've been Dre Harrison. They've been RJ O'Connell and Cam Buckley. Until next time, sayonara.
Later, y'all.
Do we have to talk about the Rolex 24?
Yes, we do.
We need to have a dialogue.
Understandable.
We need to talk about the 4 words that every woman wants to hear. Here comes James Allen.